Hey guys, I'm back. I wanted to talk to you more about pattern making and go a bit more in detail with this. So I've got this shirt that I want to make a copy of the pattern. I want to make it in different fabrics, so I need to trace the pattern. And I don't need to take it apart, I don't need to cut it up, I just need to measure it. And then with those measurements, I'm going to recreate it inside CLO. So I've laid my garment out flat and I've measured all the key points that I need for this pattern, and it looks like a lot, but it's actually not too much. And the thing to notice is that everything is based on these horizontal and vertical measurements for the most part. We have the armhole that's at an angle, but most of this is at a horizontal and vertical measurements. The reason for that is if we look at this example of a shirt draft, if we were to draft this from scratch, again, all of this is based on horizontal and vertical measurements, and then we are adding the shaping in at certain points. So I've taken the measurements that I need. It's an oversized shirt, so it's quite big, and everything is in centimeters, and I'm going to trace this out in CLO. I've got the front, the back, I've got a lot of the details measured out as well. The collar, shape, the cuff, how we can build the cuff placket and the cuff construction, and then the collar stand as well. So I'll explain this as I go through the process of recreating this pattern. Let's start in CLO. I've got I'm in the 2D space because I don't need to be in 3D right now. I'm just drawing out this pattern. So I've got my avatar loaded, and I'm just going to draw a big rectangle across the front of my workspace here. And I want to import a image into this fabric. So if I look right now, the opacity is turned down, so I'll put that back up. If I look, I can add a texture in here. I'm going to go in and I've exported those pages that I could use here. And now I've got my front pattern measurements imported into CLO3D. So I'm going to use the edit pattern tool here to rescale this graphic to make it bigger. And I do want to be able to see through this to basically see the proportion of my mannequin. So I'm going to choose the fabric, go down and bring the opacity down to maybe 20 something. And just take a look. So I want this shoulder to line up with the shoulder of my avatar and the neck kind of as well, so that I can see if I've got the right scale to this image. And I want to work as much to scale as possible. So let's just check this. The idea is to bring the image in, and then we're going to draw around it to take all the pattern shapes that we need and then convert those lines that we've drawn into pattern pieces. So I'm going to use the internal line tool here, and I'm just going to draw straight on top of this piece of fabric. So we'll start with the front shoulder and the center front. So I've written on what all of these measurements are, and I'll explain as I go through, but we want to start with the shoulder line here. So we're going to go from the neck opening, which is the high point shoulder, like the highest point on your shoulder where your neck is. We're going to start from there, come out to the armhole, go straight down to the underarm, and then go straight down to the front hem about here. We can come down at an angle because we know we want to shape the bottom of this pattern, and then come right into the center front. And the front is the center. It's not here like where the button stand is. It's right in the middle of the button placket on the front. So come straight down there. Go up to the front neck drop here, and then go back to your shoulder point. And if I press Shift and Z on the keyboard, I'll be able to see the measurements of this, of all of these lines that I've got. And if I look on my measurements over here, I want my shoulder width to be 20 centimeters, and this is 20.3, so that's pretty good. And my armhole length should be 28, and this is 27.75. So I've scaled this pattern pretty well to fit onto this avatar. So if I look, even his neck looks the right thickness, the shoulder looks like it's ending at the right point. Like I said, it's oversized, so this shoulder will drop off a little bit. But this is good enough for us to start working with. So if I want to start correcting this shoulder line, I need to know how wide my back neck opening is. And this neck opening is 21. Or 10.5 from the center back. So like this is the center back point here because it's the center of the back part of the pattern, and this is the center front because it's the front part here. And from the shoulder point to the center back should be 10.5 centimeters. So if I draw a line across here, it is now 9. So I know that I need to move this shoulder point further over in order to get the right distance at the front. But we want to start checking some other things before we move everything around. So let's draw in the underarm width here. And then we can do the front chest. So we're going to do half of the measurements that I've measured across. So this is when the garment is closed. I've measured front chest, the front underarm, and the center front length. And we can add the shape of our armhole in now as well. So if I press C on the keyboard, I'll go into this curved edit mode where I can edit the curve of the line. And I just want to kind of curve this in to get a nice smooth armhole shape. And the front width of this should be half of 55. So 27.5 centimeters. And this is 26. So we want to move this out a little bit. Maybe 1.5 centimeters. And then just use the edit pattern tool and then bring this line back out. So now it's 27.27, so we can just leave that as it is for now. 27, I think, is close enough for now. And the front here is 68, and therefore it should be 34, and this is almost 33. So we might want to move out. If I just select these points here, just drag and select, and it'll select all these lines and all these points together. And then I'm going to press Shift and select just this vertical line. I just drag this out a little bit until I get to almost 34. There, 34 centimeters. So again, we'll look at this armhole quickly. It looks quite wide now, so I think we can just scoop this in a bit. And then, yeah, the shoulder length is good. We just need to increase this distance here. So again, I'm going to need to increase this by 1.5 centimeters. So I'm going to grab these points where it build up the shoulder, just drag and select everything. Then I'm going to drag and select the ones on the side of the armhole here. And then I'm just going to move them across until that line gets to about 10.5. There we go. So that's 10.47, almost 10.5. That's also given us a bit more in the front chest, which is what we needed. So let's bring that out here. 28. We wanted, I think, 27.5. And the reason this measurement is important is because it's going to help us. It'll be the narrowest point between the two armholes, so it will help us make sure we got the armhole in the right shape. The next thing we check is the front neck drop. So like the neck drop is like this. This is the high shoulder point and this is the center front, and the drop is how deep down this curve will come. I don't need to measure this curve. I just need this drop and this width of the back neck, which we've already taken care of. It's 10.5 and the neck drop is 9.5. So if I draw a new line in from here down, it's now 8.74. So we want to again increase this so our neck drop isn't too high up on our neck here. It comes to the right point down in the bottom. So again, drag and select all of those internal line points here and just come down until I see my line is pretty much 9.5. There we go. 9.58. Let's try to get it to 9.5. Right. Then I'm going to press C on the keyboard and just curve the neck line again. I don't want to come too far out like this, like that's way too much. I want to come kind of like this. So I have a nice smooth transition here. Maybe a little bit straighter. Okay, that should do. Okay, so now we know our shoulder is good. It's actually about 3 millimeters too big because this measurement should be 20. So I'm just going to bring this back in. 19.9. We got 20 there. Just check the armhole curve. Right. So now we've got the right chest width, the right underarm width. We've got we need to look at the side seam length and the front length. Okay, so the front length on this pattern should be 71 centimeters from the neck drop here down to the hem. So that's the center front length. The high point shoulder to hem is also a length we want to check. So right from the high point on the shoulder, we come all the way down to the hem, and this will help us make sure we have the right length. So the high point shoulder to hem should be about 81 and the other one should be about 71, which is correct because there's about 10 centimeters difference from the neck drop. So if I just select, as well, we need to increase the side seam length because this should be 40 centimeters and it's not even 37. So I'm just going to drag and select all the bottom points of this line and just drop it down maybe 4 centimeters. Yeah, so now we've got 40 centimeters on the side seam, we've got 71 centimeters in the front seam and 81 almost in the front high point shoulder to hem. So this is looking pretty good size-wise. The last thing that we can check is actually the drop on this hem. So if I come down here, I want about 4 centimeters from the bottom of the hem to where this curve starts happening, and now I've got about 5. So I think our length looks fine, and I can just drop this down 1 centimeter. And then we can curve this out, so we don't want this kind of angle happening. We want a nice smooth kind of curve happening on the hem, but we don't want to do just this, because if you look now, we'll have a nice smooth shape here on the bottom edge, but then as we come to the top, we're going to get a point happening, and we don't want a point, we want a smooth line to happen there. So we're going to have to add in, I just click and hold this second option here for where the edit pattern is and go down to add point and just add another point close to where this hem, the side seam is. Press C again on the keyboard to go back into your curve pattern editing and just start to adjust the shape of this curve to get a nice smooth, almost kind of horizontal point here, rather than getting like a sharp point like this. We want something more like rounded. So we start with a lot of, right angles and straight lines, but we want to end up with some nice smooth lines in the end. So the front of this is looking good measurement wise. I think I can leave it as it is. We now want to do the back piece, and if I look again at my reference, when we draft a shirt, we're going to draft the front shoulder, the armhole together, and the side seam together. So we'll have, this will be the center front and this will be the center back, and we can work those measurements across from the front to the back to make sure the garment is balanced and we don't have anything that mismatches from the front side to the back side. So let's do that. What I'm going to do to start this off, just select this outside shape that we've made, press Ctrl C on the keyboard and then right click and choose mirror paste so it makes a reflected version, and I'm just going to drop that right on the side seam. So now I can use this back piece to adjust and make my this front piece to adjust to make my back piece. So let me just draw in some of these lines again. We want our back width, we want our back under the chest basically, and we're going to have a yoke seam in here as well, but we'll draw that in. And then this will be our high point shoulder to hem on the back. So if I look at the back measurements of this garment, they're not too dissimilar from the front. There's a couple of things we need to be aware of. So the front chest width, back width, hem, high point shoulder to hem is pretty much the same. 55, 81 down, 68 across 68. So like, we know that this is really straight because the chest is 68, the hem is 68, it's going straight down. There's no tapering in and there's no flaring out. It's not going out to a wider measurement. The one thing that is different is the front armhole is 28 centimeters and the back armhole is about 29. So we want to make sure that the back of the pattern is longer through the armhole in the back than it is in the front, because you have more space to go around the shoulder than you do on your front. So that should always be longer. And we can check the back length as well as we go along, because the garment in general should be a bit longer in the back. So I can keep most of this pattern as it is. We just really want to check the back neck drop. So again, for the front, it's quite a deep drop of 9.5 centimeters, but here it's just 1 centimeter dropped, and the width is the same. The back neck from here to here is the same as on the front from here to here. It's 21 centimeters. So it'll be 10.5 across, 1 centimeter down. We know that this is going to be 10.5 across here from before, and then this is going to be 1 centimeter down. So I need to bring this point up, just dragging it up to here, and then let's address the shape of this. So this should come out quite horizontally, this curve, and this can be reduced. So now that's given us our back neck drop. Our center back length is 80 centimeters pretty much, and this center back length is now 80 centimeters. So like that's the measurement that we wanted. Like I said, the only key difference here is this armhole measurement. So let's take a look. If I go from here to here, we've got 78.89, and this should be 28. So I'm good for 2 millimeters on that. In the back though, this should be 1 centimeter higher. So I'm just going to select the shoulder point and this back measurement that we've got and just bump this up 1 centimeter so that this is now pretty much 29 centimeters wide. And we can also just make this armhole a bit straighter. If we look at like a reference of this, the front curves in a bit more and the armhole here is a bit straighter across the back, the shoulder, like there's more curve in the front. So we want to just straighten this off a bit to give ourselves more space across your shoulders so that, you know, you have space in this garment and you're not restricted. So this should be pretty balanced now. The only other thing we might want to do is just select the hem points and drop these down 1 centimeter so that our back is just a little bit longer than our front. And we can then turn this into some patterns and then add in a lot more detail. So the details would be the shoulder seam, the yoke seam we can actually draw in. So if I look on the reference, we've got a yoke on the center back here, which is the seam to shape across the shoulders. And that is 12 centimeters down from the high shoulder point. So if I go here, I come down 12, which is about here. Then I can just come across like this, and that will be my yoke seam. So we can add in all of these details when we kind of transfer this into some patterns. What we can do next though, before we work on that, is the sleeve. So we have the armhole now here, a nice shape in the armhole, and we now need to look at the sleeve. So the sleeve, if you look how I've laid this garment out, I've laid the front armhole out in a way where I can see the shape of the front arm construction going under the arm, and I've just folded the sleeve underneath. On this side, I've done the opposite. I folded the sleeve up so like I can see where the shape of the end of the sleeve is, and then I folded the garment underneath it because we want this extra fabric under here for space to be able to move and we're not stuck with our arm down. So when I've laid this out, I've done it in a way where I can see the shape of the sleeve head. If we look at a sleeve pattern in a bit more detail, so the measurements we need for this are the bicep measurement, the elbow measurement, the sleeve length, and then the sleeve head depth, which is like the top of the sleeve head to where the curve starts to happen. So this is the depth of the sleeve head. On other types of patterns, like for a tailored jacket, this will be a lot higher. On other things, it might be a bit lower down, but this is the measurements that we want to work with. So again, I've measured this off the garment, and I'm able to see the shape of this sleeve construction in the way that I took the pictures. We can start to draw this off from our reference over here. So I'm just going to use the internal line tool again and just draw around the shape of this pattern. Like this. The underarm, the cuff opening, and then back down here. So we need to curve this out a bit. And then this looks not too bad. And then let's start to check all of these measurements, right? This is going to be a lot easier to do if I turn this pattern this way. so that I've got a nice straight line here and I'm not doing this at an angle. And I think it'll be easier if I turn off this underlay. So I'm just going to delete that image because I've got all the measurements I need from here. And what I actually want to look at more is this page rather than what was underneath. So let's just check. First of all, this angle on the bottom, this shouldn't be pointing up. This should be quite straight. So we can just drop that down so we have a nice 90-degree angle here, and then we can have the shaping of the underarm seam there. The length of this should be 57 from the sleeve head to the cuff and 45 across here and 15 in the bottom. So this is a little small. I'm just going to grab the whole thing and just scale it up a little bit until I get closer to where I want to be. So yeah, 57 for this length here, which this is not. This is 60. So let me just drop this down. 1, 2, 3, 57. This should be 45 and it's now 46.5. So I can just drop this down. 45.5, maybe a little more. And then the cuff opening should be 15 centimeters. So that's almost 15 down there. Maybe a little too much. There we go. So let's draw in our bicep line across here and our elbow line, which will be about, I don't know, maybe 2/3 of the way down. Roughly where your elbow is going to go, but not too far down. So the width that we want here is 28 centimeters and 23. This is way too narrow right now. This is only 26 and this is only 20. So let's select these points here and start to move them out till we get to 28 centimeters on the bicep. Okay, that's 28. And then this is 22.5 almost. Actually, how far is this? Almost 22, and it should be about 23. So we might want to add a bit into this later, but for now I'm going to leave this as it is. What we want to check then is the sleeve head depth. So if I come here and I go down, this is currently 14.16 and it should be 12.5. However, the length is fine. So what we actually want to do is just select the top bit and select the underside and just kind of shift everything down so that we keep this like 58, 57 centimeter length, but we're just changing the shape of the sleeve head. So if I drop this down, 1, 2, we need about 12.5, so that's a little low. Nope. 12.5 is about here. So let me change the curve of this just a little bit. Our length is looking a lot better. And if I bring this elbow line back up because it's now moved down, we're about 23 centimeters on the elbow. So this looks good. I think this is going to work fine for what we need here. We've got a nice smooth curve in the sleeve head. We're coming out, we want to be at about a 90-degree angle up here. Like this. Then here, we might want to bring this in a bit. So we have a nice smooth shape on the sleeve head, and then we want to do the back part of the sleeve. But let's first check this measurement. So we should have on this front armhole 30 centimeters, and on the back 31, 30.3, however. So we've got 18 here and 13 here. So that's 31. And I think that's going to be about fine. You could just if we straighten these lines off a little bit, we can reduce the measurement, but I think for now, this is fine. We have a little bit of ease in the sleeve head. And then on the back, we need to have 31. So again, I'm just going to copy this, right click, mirror paste, and then just mirror the sleeve in the back. And like I said before, we need extra length in the back, and the same goes for the back armhole. So we have more length around the back armhole. Let's just grab this point here, this part of the sleeve, the underside, and just press left and make it 1 centimeter bigger. So now this line is 1 centimeter longer, so it'll be 31 centimeters. This is the front. This does it for the main parts of the body of this pattern. The last thing that we need to look at is, before we start to add more details into this, is just the collar and the cuff. And the easiest way to look at this is, again, based on squares. So our cuff is literally just a rectangle. We have a cuff placket, which has a kind of point in the top of it, which we can draw out. And then we have a binding piece underneath. And then in the next video, I'll show you how to construct all this together. And then the collar is basically a straight piece. It comes from a straight column, and then we're just adding a little bit of shaping in the sides to make this point and to make it sit around the neck. And we get the fit around the neck from the collar stand. So the collar stand again starts off straight and is going to kind of curve out around as it comes to the front, and then the collar will get stitched into this. So we want to check our front neck measurement and our back neck measurement. And the easiest way to do this is to think, okay, the height of my collar is 6 centimeters, and I need about 14 centimeters of collar in the front. So if I click and I do 6 for the height and 14.74 width, this can be my front collar piece that we start to work with. Do the same for the back, which is 10.67. So width 10.67, height 6. Okay. And then I can merge these patterns together. So I'm just going to select the edges and merge. And if I now look, I've got basically this starting block. So I have this piece going down here like this, and I now want to just add some height and some width. So I want this part to come out 1 centimeter and then up 0.5, and I want this to come down 0.75. So if we look where this curve starts, I can put a point here to hold this horizontal, and I can put a point about here to hold this horizontal. So let's put these points in first and then adjust the measurements to the side. So I'm going to go to the add point. The bottom one should be a lot further over here than this one. And we want it to come up 0.5 centimeter and then out 1 centimeter. And if you look at the purple number, I can see how far I've moved, and that's 1 centimeter down. And then here I just want to come down 0.75. So just the bottom point, not the top one as well. And that is there. And then again, press C on the keyboard to just bring this curve tool up, and I can curve this out. And then this is ready for us to, we're going to make it symmetrical, but we'll stitch the body together first, and then we'll come back to fitting this collar in. But the last thing we can do is the collar stand. So if, again, we do the same as we did before, but we do it with the height of 3 centimeters so that we've got the full neck opening length in it, and then we can make this a little bit smaller in the top. So the front, the height of this again should be 3 this time because the stand is shorter, and the neck should be 14.74 for the front. The back 10.67. Done. Again, let's join these guys together, merge, and we can look at the shaping in the front. So when we have a collar, we have this like curve here. So our top collar is going to get shorter because we need to reduce it, but we've got now at least the right shape to start off fitting this into the stand. We need this curve shape happening in the top, and then we need to make this lift up a bit. And the easiest way to get this lift to happen is to just use this spread tool here and start to take out a few millimeters in a few different spots on your way down to the center front, like this. And if you get this curving happen here, just press C on the keyboard and bring this up to be a much nicer, more consistent shape. And we can then add a point here and start to put in our this shape right here. So bring this one down a bit, press C on the keyboard and just kind of curve that back up. And then we can really perfect this when we have started to sew it all together. Basically, we can look at this a lot more accurately, I think. Again, this is way too deep here. So let's just bring this back up. Should have a nice shape in this color stand. This gets us going. Let's just convert all of this into patterns now. So I'm just going to select this front piece, clone as a pattern, put that down here. Back piece, clone as pattern, put that over here. Same for the sleeve, the front part, the back part. And then let's merge these sleeves together. And I'm just going to put a line, an internal line down here, and I'm just going to put one in the front so that I remember that this is the front. Like, it looks quite similar, the measurements are quite similar, but now I know that this is the front sleeve and this is the back sleeve. And yes, so now we can move on to actually sewing this all together. The only thing I think we can just add before we go any further is the yoke seam. We come down 12 centimeters like we said before. We come across and then we have a line there. And then we can add in our shoulder seam, because what we've got now is actually a shoulder, is the shoulder line. It's the right point where we have the line down the shoulder. We want to move the seam forward a little bit. Like if you look, when I've taken the pictures of this flat, the front shoulder seam sits forward from this shoulder line. It's a bit deeper around the neck and a bit narrower near the armhole, so we have like a nice angled shape coming down here. So we can just draw this in visually and adjust it on the body when we see this all simulated. So I'm going to start wide in the neck and narrower towards the armhole. And eventually we're just going to cut this piece off and shift it onto the back pattern, so that the back piece is one piece and then the front piece we just have a shifted shoulder seam. So for now, I think we can leave this as it is and then move on in the next video to sewing this all together. I'll show you how to construct the cuff and the placket and the pleats and everything. But this shows you how to measure accurately a garment, how to look at the garment, what measurements to take from it, you know, horizontally, vertically, wherever you need to take those measurements from, and should make you much more accurate in your pattern cutting, because we want to make a physical garment from this in the end. We don't just want to simulate this for visualization, we want to simulate this for actual pattern production. So I'll see you guys in the next video where we can stitch this all together.